Is it round or flat? Don't ask a brat. Results from a new study reveal a third of young American millennials aren't sure that the Earth is round.
A national poll found that 18 to 24-year-olds are the largest group in the country who believe the Earth could be flat. It seems the older you get, the more you believe the Earth is round.
Here's what 18 to 24-year-olds said when asked, do you believe the world is round or flat? 66% have always believed the Earth is round, yippee. 9% always thought the world was round, but more recently became skeptical. 5% always thought the world was flat, but more recently had doubts. Good for them. 4% always believe the world is flat.
And apparently young millennials are behind the push. It comes as this man tried to launch himself into space on a homemade rocket to prove the theory. He just tested that rocket not long ago. I remember the day we brought this to you.
Yeah, well, when people tell the youth to fight the power, they don't mean Copernicus, right? I mean, there's some things that we can look at here and all understand that we're on the same page. But I would say that people should have a better understanding of why it is they believe what they believe. Because, for example, okay, we can all agree the Earth is round, but you ask people about climate change, and they'll just say, because the answer really is because all the smart people say so. And that should never be your baseline of why you think something is or is not true. I did not think I'd get applause for that, by the way. That was nice.
So Buck just said the Earth is flat. That is freaking me out. All right, Kat.
Encouraging skepticism about what you've been taught. For the serious students here at the conference,
and this has got to a point now where it's becoming real.
It all comes down to proof.
When it comes to science, there's things you can test right now, right? Fire burns, water's wet, drop something, falls to the ground, that appears to be gravity. Those are things you can test, right?
But the curving horizon, the sloping sea level, the spin of the Earth, unless you can see these phenomena with your own eyes, they may not be true.
A lot of people are going, this is
crazy, right? But think about this. For the last 20, 25 generations, this is what we've told people.
Unlike what we've been told in school, some flat earthers imagine the Earth looks like a snow globe, round but not sphere. The North Pole is at the center of most flat Earth maps, with the ice of Antarctica holding everything in.
So are you certain this is what the Earth looks like?
Pretty sure. Almost. I mean, there are some details to be worked out, sure.
Those iconic blue marble images seen from space, flat earthers denounce them as fakes.
Because it seems like this conspiracy that the Earth is flat is picking up steam, and I don't even know who that would benefit. The globe makers, I guess, the globe barons. But it just seems crazy to me because how many people you would have to keep that conspiracy going? Because you fly to China, you didn't get to an edge.
Yeah, you didn't. You didn't get to the edge, and you sent astronauts then they did pictures, and they showed a globe. So this is a big conspiracy, Tyrus.
Some flat earthers actually believe astronauts are just actors, part of a huge conspiracy going back to those very first steps on the moon.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
You don't believe that they've gone to space?
No, not at all. The rockets go up, sure. There's nobody in them.
This is what happens when you answer text questions with selfies. That's exactly what this is. They didn't read this. Is the Earth? Yes. Like, this is the problem with, they just say things. They're like dogs chasing tires. They just do whatever. I'm not taking a test. You said you're crushing it.
I am.
You're the unicorn of the group.
Thank
Congratulations.
you, I knew it.
The rest are sheep. Wait, am I stuck in that group?
You might be.
Damn it.
Yes, I think you might.
Well, there's two unicorns in every thing.
Unicorn.
All right.
The Earth is round.
Enough bashing unicorns. I think life would be easier if the world was flat, and here's why. Think about how much easier it would be to throw stuff away.
Push it over the side.
Yeah.
Flat Earth was accepted as certainty until science and sailboats said otherwise.
And one of the rules of power is you never admit that there's someone bigger than yourself.
But it wasn't until 2015 when this guy, Mark Sargent, posted his Flat Earth clues.
Part of a series of clues that can help you get your head around both the design of the flat Earth system we live in.
Think of the mystery of the Earth's underside. That'll be like the coolest place to go. Hey, where are you going? Me and the wife, we're going to the Earth's underside, because if it's flat, there's got to be something underneath, right?
New Jersey.
New Jersey?
That's right.
They're clapping their own state's demise.
This is going to be fun.
It's why many of them do their own experiments. Daryl Marble packed a level on a flight to test if the plane was flying parallel to a flat Earth.
So there's going to be some science-y people who say that is a real Bobo experiment.
They have.
That's a little basic.
I know. It's so simple, it'll go right over your head.
The credo for many of these believers, check it out for yourself.
Go out and test.
You just want them to ask the questions.
Why do you believe what you believe? And let you go from there. Because I could tell you something, and then you just look at me and say I'm crazy.
A lot of people watching this are going to be like, that man is crazy.
I'm sure they probably do. And I would say, well, they're crazy for not testing what they think they believe.
I think life would be easier if the world was flat, and here's why. Think about how much easier it would be to throw stuff away.
Push it over the side.
Yeah. Just walk over, drop it off the edge.
You live at the edge.
No, but you know what? It's like because the Earth is round, you can never really throw anything away. It goes in the Earth.
We could
Also, by
rocket
the
it
way-
into space.
Yeah, but then it just gets into this orbit.
And we'd be a lot smaller for the purposes of asteroids hitting us. Think about it that way,
Yes.
right? A lot
You
thinner.
know what? I'm so sick of you and your edge privilege.
The flat earthers have many, many more,
This is what returns to Earth.
which is why I thought someone who's actually seen the Earth from space might have some answers.
1 + 1 is?
2,
What color is the sky?
blue,
And the Earth is?
round. Just like it is here, this model of it.
Professor Mike Massimino spent more than 20 days in space and worked on the Hubble telescope.
So when you looked at the planet, what did it look like?
It looks round, folks. It is round. My eyewitness account, and I looked at it as much as I could. It is round.
For more, let's check in with a young millennial for a comment.
Come on, Snogs. Don't think about it. You just gotta go.
Well, that Earth was flat. All right. I compiled a bunch of facts that prove the Earth is round because I had to. Because I couldn't remember how you prove it.
But in a world of disagreements large and small, for something as clear as this horizon, the interpretation could be infinite.
Now, flat earth faith, though, and this kind of faith is a literist kind of faith. In other words, what I mean by that, even though there's no proof for the position, it believes it just the same, but it's worse than that, flat earth faith, in that it believes things literally. It believes that you can only read the Bible literally, okay? And by that, what I mean is the scriptures must be read literally or you don't have faith. And because of that, they've decided that the scientists are all lying about all their information. All science are lying. They're just a bunch of liars. They're not honest people. The earth literally sits on pillars. It literally has 4 corners. It literally has a sky dome that if you go up high enough, you'd run into it. It literally is a circle. It literally never moves. I couldn't put all the verses, okay, that they quote on that. I had to stop. In fact, a lot of this, but I did hear an interesting statement by somebody. They said the Flat Earth Society has members all over the globe. I liked that statement. I thought that was pretty good. Someone else said most flat earthers would be cured if they traveled more. If they traveled to the equator and traveled east in a straight line and they stopped when they got back where they started, maybe they wouldn't be flat earthers anymore. But I don't want to make fun. I just think it's interesting because it's the problem, and this is what I want to deal with, is this concept of literalism. And I believe this will help you. If you understand what I'm going to teach tonight, if you understand this, this will change the way you read the Bible. It'll change the way you study the Bible. Because we need to actually grow up. If we lean into that flat earth stuff, it's time to grow up. Put our big boy shoes on and our big boy underwear on and really just grow up, okay? It's time. If you read them literally, The earth is flat, it has four corners. And they're right, and there's a dome above it. But folks, literalists are confused by the genres of God. They don't understand the concept of, apparently, literature genres. There are all kinds of genres in the Scriptures, and if I were to give you all the Scriptures here, if you thought that was a big list of Scriptures, you wouldn't even begin to imagine how many Scriptures I have. My outline tonight is ridiculous how thick, but if you want a copy of it, I'll get you a copy later. You're welcome to read them all, okay? I'm not trying to hide anything, not trying to pull any wool over anybody's eyes, but there's a thing called accommodative language. And that's words that get the primary message across without regard to stretch literal details. The goal of the writer is to get the message across effectively. And if you don't understand that concept, that God has to speak to you in a way because your mind is way down here and his is way up there above the sky in his brilliance and his understanding. He has to talk to you baby talk. And by doing that, he has to use accommodative language because you can't understand the math he knows. You can't understand the science he knows. So he uses accommodative language. Another thing he uses is allegory. That's symbolic representation, such as a blindfold figure holding scales as an allegory of what? Justice. Euphemisms. It's an act or an example of substituting a mild, indirect, or vague term for one considered harsh or blunt or offensive. The Bible is full of allegory, it's full of euphemisms, it's full of accommodative language, it's full of hyperbole. That's a figure of speech in which extreme exaggeration is used for emphasis or effect, like, I could sleep for a year. Well, you couldn't. So those are in Scriptures. I'm sorry they are. The Bible isn't all a bunch of literal, take literal everything it says. There's poetry in Scripture. Some would say Genesis 1 is poetry. We know Psalms is. We know that Lamentation is. And we know that there are prophetic songs that are. And then there's Proverbs in Scripture. And those are usually sayings that are often popular, that were popular in the day. So one expects, now you would expect that a skeptic would maybe be ignorant of such, but if they're not ignorant of such, if they used it, they're using it to mock those of us who believe in the Bible. And so it's really not something we should use. We should not think everything's taken literally from the Scriptures, but people who do believe that tend to not understand this basic concept that there's various genres in here. And if you don't understand that and you start saying, you got to take that literal, generally speaking, if you're doing that, you've got an axe to grind. You just got an axe to grind. And you're trying to push something. And you should look at both sides. It could be literal, but it could be that it's just using one of those figures of speech. And if you don't understand that, you'll see a lot of things from the Scriptures. And basically, flat earth people don't understand four corners of the earth refer to north, south, east, and west. They just don't understand that. The four winds of the earth, the wind from the north, the wind from the south, wind from the east, wind from the west. They just don't understand that. These concepts, that these are just ways of describing things. We can end up, if we're literalists, we can end up forgetting what the purpose of the text is in our hurry to teach what we want to believe. For example, when a purpose or a message overrides the science or logic or taking it literally, one has to believe the literalist approach in Genesis 1, or that the earth is 6,000 years old if he's going to be a faithful Christian. No. You can be a faithful Christian and not believe that. Oh, but you have to. Well, the Bible doesn't actually say it was 6,000 years ago. You have to calculate that, first of all. Okay? You have to calculate that. There's no ever any number given in the Scriptures. So the earth may be. That may be exactly right. I'm not in a position to argue it. It may be exactly right. But that you have to believe it that way is taking the literalist position. And what the problem with that is that you're misunderstanding. Genesis chapter 1 was not meant to be a scientific book. Genesis is not meant to be a scientific book. It's a theological book. It's teaching theological ideas. And while one may recognize that there's some ideas there that are kind of scientific, you need to understand that God had a greater purpose in writing that than teach science. That wasn't why he wrote it. And when the text itself suggests that there are other ways of interpreting a text, then you should not be so dogmatic on a literalist approach. Let me give you an example of that, and that is the word day in Genesis. Now, I've been literalist, so I think you should understand. I've been a literalist. So I want to give you, there are at least 7 possible meanings of the word day in Genesis 1 and 2. There's 7 of them here. The light was called day, which is 12 hours. So the light was called day, so that's one kind of day. Genesis 1 and verse 5. Genesis 1 verse 5 also says the evening and the morning were the first day. Now that indicates 24 hours, but wait a minute. The evening and the morning, the dark and the daylight are called a day, and the daylight's called a day. So that's 2 right there. All right, and then Genesis 2 verse 2. He rested on the 7th day from all of his works which he had done, but no formula in Genesis 2:2 is mentioned. The evening and the morning were the evening and the morning. That's not done on the 7th day. Did you ever pick up on that? 5th meaning of the word day that's used here. The sun and the moon and the stars regulate a day as we know it. I mean, I get up when the sun comes up, right? Go to bed when the sun goes down, right? Stars come out at night. I know it's dark because there's stars out at night. Those didn't exist until day 4. Okay, so day 1, 2, and 3, whatever those days were like, they're not like the days you and I are experiencing. So one expects skeptics to be ignorant of such and to be literalists to mock us, but we don't expect people who are Bible students to make a big thing about it and then to draw lines of fellowship over it. Just don't expect that. It's not rational to do that. It's like we pick and choose so that we get our own agenda, because that's what literalists tend to do. All of us were equally disagreeable. That's Romans 14. That's 1 Corinthians 8. In other words, that means this, that every last one of us have an opinion. And every last one of us think we're right. And every last one of us think that if you disagree with me, you're wrong. That's who we are. And the Bible teaches that about us. If you don't believe that, you need to read 1 Corinthians 8, 1 Corinthians 10, read 1 Corinthians 9, 19 through 23. To the Jew I became like a Jew. To those outside the law as those outside the law. I have to adapt to that because everybody thinks they're right where they are. And so that's our nature. It's genres, it's goals, it's grace, confuses everybody. And let's not be silly. Can I be honest with you? I feel like sometimes biblically we're pretty silly. We're just silly, we're superficial, we're simple-minded in our Bible study. And so what I've said tonight, some of you are out there going, what, does he not believe the Bible? Proverbs 14 verse 15. The simple believe every word. Ephesians 4:14 says, we should no longer be children, tossed to and fro and carried about with every wind of doctrine by the trickery of men. We need to pay attention. 1 John 4 verse 1 says, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits. You shouldn't just believe it just because a preacher in the Church of Christ, and that includes me right now, tonight. That's great. I want you to check everything else. I'll be glad to give you all my notes. I really would. I'd love for you to look into this deeper. I really would like you to do it. Acts 17 verse 11. They search the Scriptures daily whether these things are so. It is important to know if these things are so. We don't want to be childish and go back to the cold water. So let's read the Bible like an adult. Amen? And let's not just say the earth's flat. I don't want to hear anything else. I don't want to hear nobody tell me any different. I want to hear, and when it gets to science or anything, I don't want to hear any different. I just want to hear the way it is, the way I want to believe it is. You can't do that. You have to be honest with it.